You're listening to GWP Live. I'm your host, Isaac Hedges, joined once again by co host Jacob Ulmer. Today is Friday, March 6th, 2026. We are following severe weather cycle again across our listening viewing area. Again, a number of severe thunderstorm warnings across the area. Again, not a great deal across the area yet in way of tornado, different things like that. Not quite that severe, though, is. Again, as is typical across Oklahoma. So we've seen a tornado there at least. Again, we've seen multiple tornado watches. So again, we are following weather cycles all across the country. And as always, when we're live, if you have any questions for us, well, one way to ask those is right here beside our feed in the live chat. You can also call in and ask those questions live, have them answered on air by us here at GWP, of course, by calling 417-448-0819. Have all those burning questions answered again at 417-448-0819. So a few new developments on that. And again, we thank you all for tuning in tonight. Again, this being our third live stream tonight as we follow the severe weather cycle. So again, some important information for some locals here. Again, people across the region, and we thank our loyal viewers out there and listeners for tuning in to our back-to-back live streams. So again, it is very much appreciated. Now, Jake, what are we looking at across our area right now in terms of severe weather?
Yeah, so we got several warnings that are still in effect. Of course, we've got that severe thunderstorm warning that we were tracking around the Lake of the Ozarks area, across the area, across Wheatland and Hermitage, Urbana. And so that's now moved through. Now it's moving towards Max Creek, Camdenton, and Lake of the Ozarks, now under that severe thunderstorm warning. So we'll go ahead and we'll show you that new severe thunderstorm warning that has been issued for Hickory, Mears, Dallas, and Miller, LaSalle, and Pulaski and Camden counties in Missouri until 10:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. We're looking at 60-mile-per-hour winds. At this point in time, this is a radar indicated threat. Again, this is across the Lake of the Ozarks region. At this point in time, there is no tornado possible tag, but there was a tornado possible tag with this other severe thunderstorm warning, and that one is going to be expiring at 10 o'clock. So again, let's see, there it is, still going until 10 p.m. Again, we're looking at that risk for some 60-mile-per-hour winds, as well as the risk for some hail. So expect damage to roofs, siding, and trees with that. So 10 p.m. on the severe thunderstorm warning, the one to the west. And then we've also got that severe thunderstorm warning that's been now extended until 10:30 for all of those counties to the east. That goes all the way from Lebanon up through Lake of the Ozarks, as well as just to the south of the state capital there in Jefferson City, far to the south of that, where we do have that severe thunderstorm warning for 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. Again, it all has to do with this Boeing segment right here, where that's where the strongest winds are going to be with that particular storm. We've also now recently had a new severe thunderstorm warning that was issued across Barton and Jasper County, as well as Dade County in Missouri. So this, of course, is also in our local viewing area. This goes in effect until 10:15 p.m. Central Standard Time. At 9:35 p.m., a severe thunderstorm was located over the Carl Junction and Joplin area that was continuing to move to the northeast at about 60 miles per hour. Lamar is under this severe thunderstorm warning, where we just had a severe thunderstorm that moved through the area. This is a radar indicated threat, meaning that it has not been observed from this particular storm. We're also looking at the threat with some heavy rainfall that could lead to the risk of flooding. And so that's something else that we're going to have to continue to watch as we go forward in time. Something else to mention on the storm that moved through the Lamar area is that earlier we reported that there was a 63-mile-per-hour wind gust at 8:18 p.m. Well, now we also know that there was some damaging wind reports in Lamar where a semi was turned over. There was one injury that resulted from that semi being turned over. There's also been some trees and power lines down. Several hundred customers are currently without power. We also had an injury reported in Columbus, Kansas as well. So now and that was because of the side of a house being blown off. So we've had side of a house blown off, power lines, trees that have come down, and now even the report of two injuries, one in Columbus, Kansas, and one in Lamar, Missouri, not too far away from our local area. So that's ongoing. And again, that same area that we just had that damage in Lamar, as well as that injury, is now going to be experiencing the additional threat for some more winds across that area. That severe thunderstorm warning going until 10:15 for 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. So that is something that we will continue to watch. We also now have a tornado warning, or we've been watching this tornado warning across northeastern Oklahoma. It's now about to cross over into southwestern Missouri. This goes in effect for, of course, the risk of a tornado, but also some quarter-size hail. The latest update at 9:41, a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located 4 miles to the northwest of Jay, moving at a little bit of a slower speed, but still pretty quickly at 35 miles per hour. At this point in time, we do not have a confirmed tornado. This storm does have a history of producing tornadoes. So locations that are in the path include Azena, Grove, Honey Creek State Park, as well as Jay. So any of those areas in northeastern Oklahoma are at risk for the possibility of a tornado. Again, radar indicated rotation. Currently, if we look at the radar, it looks like that our tornado would be somewhere in here. It looks like it could even be rain wrapped. And so that means that it would be harder to spot by those weather storm trackers. And so that's something to consider. It looks like that it's crossing this county road right here, this highway just to the south of the Grove area. So that's where the rotation is and the possible tornado. And again, that's going to continue to move further towards the northeast here, eventually passing into the state line, likely just to the west of the Anderson area. So if you're anywhere in this tornado warning, you need to take shelter immediately for the possibility of some large hail as well as that tornado risk. To the west of that, we're also tracking an additional severe thunderstorm warning. This goes for Mays County, an area that has already been affected this evening. So that goes in effect until 10:15 p.m. Central Standard Time. And again, Mays County is the location. 60-mile-per-hour winds as well as some half-dollar size hail is going to be possible. So we could be looking at hail damage to vehicles as well as wind damage to roofs, siding, and trees. So if you're in any of these areas, you also want to take shelter from that. The hail concern is going to be kind of in this white area right here, just to the south of Adair and to the east of Pryor Creek. That is where we have the possibility of some strong or some larger hail, possibly up to half-dollar size hail, which is even bigger than quarter size hail. So that's something to consider. And then along this leading edge right here, particularly in this kind of backwards C Boeing shape area, that's where we have that risk for some 60-mile-per-hour winds. Both of those threats are radar indicated. We've also had some additional storms popping off around Muskogee, Oklahoma as well, and then even further down to the south as well around McAllister, Oklahoma. So lots of ongoing severe weather, including one tornado warning at this point in time.
Absolutely, Jake. As you mentioned, of course, a number of severe thunderstorm warnings and one tornado warning at this point in time there in Oklahoma. And of course, we've already covered fairly extensively the procedure for that, which you can also find in our recent release from Great World Productions, the GWP Severe Weather Preparedness video. But again, of course, in the case of tornadoes, you want to move to the lowest and most interior room of your home. Now, something you talked about just moments ago, you actually touched on in our last live stream, Jake, which I'd like to get back to a little bit. We talked about this tornado, of course, the tornado warning, the main one we're talking about there that is currently in effect there in Oklahoma. You mentioned is radar indicated at this point, hasn't actually been sighted at this point. Again, so sometimes, as we mentioned in the past, with these radar indicated things, again, that makes the threat less credible if it hasn't actually been sighted. But again, given the context here, we've already just tonight seen tornadoes across Oklahoma. Again, so this is part of a pattern that we know, Jake, as you mentioned, this pattern is known to produce tornadoes. And in the case of likely what we're looking at here is a rain-wrapped tornado, which makes it more difficult to see, more difficult to detect. So in terms of observing that, that may be why we haven't had a solid observation of that, where it's still technically radar indicated at this point, though in this case still very much a serious threat because it's, again, not entirely isolated. This is part of a cycle that's already produced tornadoes. So again, still very much a credible threat. Don't disregard it just because it's radar indicated at this point. You still want to take the proper precautions if you're in the area. Again, take shelter. Certainly can't say that enough, but just an important distinction to make on that front. And as we mentioned just moments ago, again, moving back to our listening area a little bit in our region, not far from Lamar, Missouri. Sadly, we had an injury. We had a truck rollover. Semi unclear the condition of the driver at this point, how severe those injuries were at this point. Again, that's how it was reported as an injury. So again, the driver, as far as we know, is still intact. So again, though certainly not an ideal situation. Again, very dangerous. These overturned trucks, and we mentioned another injury as well just moments ago around Columbus, Kansas. Again, a piece of a house that flew off and again caused an injury, evidently. So, just a couple of things, and really puts into perspective some of the potential damages and possibility of injuries. And that is why we've been saying all throughout the night, even if it's not a severe tornado exactly, even in the case of severe thunderstorms and whatnot that we're experiencing across this area, in this case with the truck that was rolled over just outside of Lamar moments ago, in the case of the piece of the house that flew off, injuring a person around Columbus, Kansas. Again, these are areas we're talking about. There were not tornado warnings in the area. We're just talking about severe thunderstorms. So don't disregard it just because it's not the worst of the worst. Again, there is still credible threat of damages, injuries, and different things. So if you can help it, by all means, you want to stay inside. Jake?
Yes, and so we'll continue to watch that. And then we've also now recently had a flash flood warning that was issued across the Joplin area. We talked about how there's been quite a bit of rainfall with some of those training thunderstorms across the area. So now Joplin under that flash flood warning. Officially, that goes for Cherokee County in Kansas and Jasper and Newton counties across Missouri. This goes in effect until 3:45 a.m. Central Time for Saturday. So this now extending into Saturday morning. Flash flood warnings are usually issued over longer periods of time because the threat does last a little bit longer. So that's something to keep in mind with that. We've got many different locations in and around Joplin, Carthage, Baxter Springs, Webb City, Carl Junction. You can see the rest of the names of those different, different towns and suburbs of the Joplin area. But that's where we've got that flash flood warning at 9:50. It was reported by emergency management. So this is an observed threat that you need to take seriously, and that goes in effect until 3:45 a.m. Again, for the Joplin and Carthage area, that continues to be a concern. We also just had a new development. We have a new tornado warning that has been issued. So we're now going to take a look at that here. This across southwestern Missouri. Tornado warning issued for western McDonald County here. Let's go back into that. Okay, so this was the tornado warning in Oklahoma. That goes until 10:15. But what we're going to zone in on is this new tornado warning that goes in effect for Western McDonald County until 10:30 p.m. And so this is a radar indicated rotation. So still no confirmed tornado with this particular cell, but it is capable of producing a tornado. It was located near Grove as of 9:55 or 11 miles northeast of J, if that's a little bit easier to understand. And it is moving towards the northeast at about 40 miles per hour. So we've got Southwest City, Noel, Anderson, and Goodman in southwestern Missouri. Some very rural areas across the McDonald County area, but still, we do have an Interstate 49, that does run across that area under that risk for a possible tornado.
Absolutely, Jake. You mentioned a couple of important new developments. Of course, we were reporting on moments ago again the likelihood that they're on the very edge of the Oklahoma border. This tornado, even though it's yet to be observed, actually a radar indicated threat at this point. Though again, this is not an isolated event, part of an actual cycle, which we know has already produced tornadoes. So again, don't disregard it as we mentioned just because it's only radar indicated, just because no one's seen it yet. Again, the likelihood here is that Jake, as you mentioned, we're looking at a rain-wrapped tornado, which is more difficult to see, more difficult to detect and observe at that point, though, in the area, we've already seen these tonight, and now it has crossed over the Missouri border there into southwest Missouri in McDonald County. So, again, if you're in the area, of course, this is a tornado warning, so you'll want to respond appropriately, which, of course, means taking shelter again in a sturdy building in the lowest, most interior room of your home. Certainly, you want to do that. And Jake, as you mentioned, of course, just moments ago, another development, another one of the severe thunderstorms across the area. Another update on that. What exactly was going on there? For a little bit of a reminder for the folks at home.
Yeah, so we do still have that severe thunderstorm warning in effect across the Lake of the Ozarks area. So again, multiple different counties in effect. The storm just moved through the Max Creek area. So again, still at this point in time, we're not looking at a tornado risk with this particular storm. Of course, that could come back into play, but this is a bow echo, and so that means that straight line winds of upwards of 60 miles per hour are going to be possible at 9:42. Severe thunderstorms were located along this line about 8 miles east of Hermitage to 8 miles southeast of Urbana to 7 miles southwest of Buffalo. And they were moving pretty quickly to the northeast at about 75 miles per hour. So that's the speed. And again, the hazard is going to be 60-mile-per-hour winds. This is still a radar indicated threat, so we've had no reports of any actual damage from this particular warning. But again, we got that bow echo just to the west of the Lake of the Ozarks area, and that's where we're going to be looking at the possibility of some 60-mile-per-hour winds.
Absolutely, and we will continue to follow that. Naturally, any of the questions that you have along the way, we would be glad to answer. You can put those in the live chat alongside your video feed here. You can also call in and have those questions answered again at 417-448-0819 for all your burning questions about the ongoing severe weather cycle. Again, that number is 417-448-0819. Again, let us know what those questions are. And now, of course, as we mentioned, a number of different severe thunderstorm warnings across the state of Missouri. Moments ago, we saw one of those expire, one of them drop off. Again, actually drop off before the set time to expire. But in the grand scheme of things, still a number of warnings in effect. And now we've seen a tornado that was going on that we've been, again, covering from early on, from where it started, of course, in Oklahoma, as is typical. A tornado, again, that warning has now crossed over across the Missouri border into southwest Missouri, now affecting McDonald County. So we will continue to follow that. And again, certainly first priority in all of this is certainly your safety. So important thing to note on that. Again, a number of different places across our listening area, across the country, again, affected differently. So, again, they are going to have different recommended precautions for the different conditions, but it's important to be aware of those. And a great resource we keep mentioning because it really is a great resource. It is a complete, comprehensive overview of what to do in the case of different types of severe weather. And if you're not sure what to do, well, it is a great resource to check out. Again, a recent release from Great World Productions. That would be our GWP Severe Weather Preparedness video. Again, a great time to check that out. Jake?
Yes, and so that'll tell you the difference between a watch and a warning. Of course, a watch is more regional. It just means the conditions are favorable for the development of severe storms. With a tornado watch, the capability of producing tornadoes, and we do have one of those tornado watches across the region until 1 a.m. Again, with our main risk being 60 to 70 mile per hour winds, large hail of up to 2 inches or lime size hail, and then again, a few isolated tornadoes will be possible as we do have that ongoing tornado warning. And that remains in effect across the McDonald County area. Again, that continues for just a little bit longer here. As we mentioned, 10:15 is the expiration for the severe or for the tornado warning in Oklahoma. The one in McDonald County goes until 10:30. Well, I believe that we are going to go into a brief break, but we will be back here as needed throughout the rest of this evening.
Absolutely, and you will want to watch for that lime-sized hail. As we mentioned, again, of course, moments ago, the most that we had cited was penny-sized hail, which, again, quite small, not capable of a great deal of damage. In the case of hail, much bigger than that, of course, capable of causing more damage to cars and different things outside. So at this point, with this larger hail expected, would be a good idea, if possible, to get those cars into garages, under carports, have them protected from that hail damage again, because that would not be pretty, certainly. And Jake, you may have to correct me on this if we've had any other recent updates on this. We covered this, I believe, earlier tonight in our first live stream that we did. There was a sighting of hail around Carthage, Missouri, a little bit of it penny to dime sized, something like that, of course, around the area. And not a great deal beyond that. We had hail that was predicted, that was expected around the area, though at this point we hadn't gotten any of it yet. And Jake, I know that here, certainly in Nevada, Missouri, haven't gotten any hail yet tonight. Now, beyond that, have we actually gotten some more hail reported across the state of Missouri at this point? Because it seems like, again, quite the jump from, again, a little to nothing, again, dime to penny sized, and now we're seeing more of a prediction of up to lime size. What's the deal with that?
So that means that the tornado watch area that we showed you, which is right here again in the yellow, that means that we could get lime-sized hail with any of these thunderstorms as we go throughout the evening. Although at this point in time, we don't have any storms that could produce lime-sized hail. That just says that later, at some point tonight, we could have a storm that could produce hail up to that size.
Absolutely, Jake. Well, thank you for the clarification on that. Of course, possibility of lime-sized hail coming our way, and we haven't seen any of it yet. And again, that's not the most immediate threat at the moment. But again, you'll want to stay tuned for that. There is the possibility of that tonight. And again, for all the latest updates on that, you'll want to stay tuned for GWP Live. Jake, as you mentioned, we are going to be going into a little bit of break. Again, going to be ending this live stream, but we will be back later tonight. So you'll want to stay tuned for that, for all the latest information, all the latest precautions to take. That about wraps it up for the time being. Until next time,
I'm Jacob Fulmer.
I'm Isaac Hedges, host of GWP Live. From all of us at GWP Live and Great World Productions,